This week I've just kind of had a weekend of experimenting and playing in my craft laboratory, I guess you could say, and just kind of playing with some product. And there was an idea I had a while ago that I wanted to try, and it's not a new technique, but it's one that I haven't done for a long time, and one that we have the perfect product to use for it. Hi Mary, hi Anita. So this is called Thick Embossing Dip, and this is a lot of fun. I played with it a little bit. I used it, I think I may have shown you. I used it on this card, on the, actually I used it on the boots. I used it on the puddle. I don't know if the light will catch the shine on there. There we go. But I found out by accident that if you layer it on your project, that you can crack it. And so I decided to roll with that. And I even, on the card that I did for this week's project, that I have been putting up on Facebook and such, I did use it on here. I don't know if you can see all those little cracks. Can you see those cracks? And so I thought, well, it might be kind of fun to show you, in case you haven't tried that technique. I thought it might be fun to kind of share that with you. So today we're going to make, we're not going to make the same card that I have up. We're going to do something a little bit different. But I am actually using butterflies again. So let's just go ahead and, instead of me talking about it, let's just get going and start playing. Okay. Oh, I did want to show you one more thing on this card. One thing I thought was kind of fun on the card that I did this week that you may not have picked up on is these little butterflies. Those, I actually used the Brutus Monroe shrink film on the new butterfly dies. This is what the dies cut out if you just cut them out of cardstock. Thanks, Ben. Ben just is bringing me the tablet. Hello. And by the way, Darren, thank you very much for helping me out. I forget to tell him sometimes. I don't want that to be in the view. Let me move that. Sorry, guys. We'll get it together here. Okay, so this is the size of the dies when you cut them out just off of normal cardstock. And then when I used the shrink film, on this one I used a little bit of ink behind it. I actually used Simon Hurley ink just on my Shrinky Dink, whatever. They're not Shrinky Dinks, but they're shrink film. Sorry, excuse me. You know, you get the picture. And then this one I just left white. And then I did have to, I will warn you if you decide to try this, that you want something like a bone folder or something to hold on to the antennae with, because it was tricky to not have them kind of merge with the wings. So that was the only real thing that I was having trouble with, but kind of fun just to make your own little embellishments. Okay, enough about that. We'll move on to today's. We are going to make kind of a vintage looking card today. I've got some honeysuckle cardstock and I'm using some lunch bag cardstock, and I've already got it all ready to go as far as my card base goes. But let's get going on these two panels. So the first thing I'm going to do, we're going to use some Oxide ink today. I've got tea dye, vintage photo, and black soot. And I decided to try them with these little brushes. There's a million different kinds of these you can buy. These ones are just cheap ones that I got at, I think it was the Dollar and More store. I got a whole set of them for super cheap. They're probably not as amazing as the ones that are in the craft stores, but hey, they were there and I thought I'd give them a shot. Okay, so I'm starting with tea dye. And I'm just going to kind of give this a little base here. Now, if I had the re-inkers for this, which I don't yet, I just started collecting these ink pads maybe 2 months ago, so I'm still building my collection. But it would be much easier probably to just use the re-inker for this. But since I don't have the re-inker, we're just going to go with what we have. It's not going to change the color dramatically, but it does have a subtle difference.
Nancy says she has to get some of that shrink plastic.
Oh, Nancy, it's so much fun. Benji and I had a really good time on one of our videos playing with that stuff.
She says she has an old shrink machine in her basement from one of her kids.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Isn't it fun to see how things cross over into the craft world? It's good you held on to that. You're going to need it maybe. Okay, so we've got the basic base of this. And I'm just going to take my heat tool and dry that a little bit. And if you wanted to, you could put another coat of this on, but I don't think it's necessary. And I know in the camera it's not really picking up too much of the difference, but you'll see it more when we put it against the pink. The honeysuckle paper kind of brings out the pink in the tea dye. The tea dye is definitely kind of a rosy brownish color. Sorry, the light in here just changed. The sun went behind a cloud or something. Hopefully you can see okay. There, I'll adjust the lights a little bit. So you can kind of see it's kind of it's a beige color with just a little tiny hint of pink in it. And then we're going to move on to, we're going to use a little bit of vintage photo.
You were better with lights before, causing the glare now.
Oh.
It wasn't that big a difference.
Is that better?
I'll let you know. Karen says hi.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for joining us today. So now I'm just going around the edges mostly. I'm using vintage photo. And if you're wondering why I'm so casual about, I've got a glass mat down. I've got the Tim Holtz tonic one. I love this thing. If you don't have one of these, I highly suggest it. It's so nice when you're working with blending and messy projects. It's just easy cleanup. I think we've just about got this. I'm actually kind of wanting a little bit more of that tea dye on there. Lost my lid. There we go. So let me dry this first really quick. And this Distress Oxide ink dries really fast. It's nice. And I like that it's got that more opaque ink. Okay, so just to give you an idea, this is before and this is after. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but you can see there's definitely a little more pink in there. It looks a little more aged. I think we will go ahead and do a little bit more of this tea dye. That's probably good enough. And maybe one more time over with the, I'm not putting more ink on the brush. I'm just going to use what's already in my brush. Sorry if I'm shaking the table.
And he says cool.
And then we're just going to dry that again. So last week we went with really bright colors in the project. We did that rainbow card. So this week I think we kind of went the opposite direction. Everything's going to be kind of more muted and more vintagey. Is that a word? Probably just vintage would be proper. And then I'm just going to go very, very lightly with this black soot. I'm just going to take the corner and I'm going to even start off of my cardstock a little bit because I don't want a really heavy line. And I'm just barely going over because we don't want a lot of this because a little of this goes a long way. Just mostly concentrating around kind of the corners. Just kind of blending it in so you can see it's pretty subtle. So now we're just going to take this is actually my favorite things ink. I don't even know, honestly. I need to check into this because I've used it a couple of times. I think they still make it. This is this one is called Milk Chocolate. And I will have to, like I said, I haven't checked recently to see if it's still available or anything, so forgive me if it's not.
Anita says she prefers gray oxide to black soot.
Oh, I bet that's a good one. Like I said, I still am collecting these, so I don't have all the colors yet. So I just kind of had to go with what I had. Okay. And now, oh, I should mention what set I'm using. This is Brutus Monroe's Butterfly Sentiments. And look at this set. I think it's beautiful.
2.0.
2.0?
Butterfly Sentiments 2.0.
Oh, 2.0. I didn't even see that part. Butterfly Sentiments 2.0. You've got all of these great, crisp butterfly images, and then you can do all kinds of fun things with ink and stuff using the kind of solid piece. So we've used this one. Now we are going to use this other one. I guess I'm on a butterfly kick. I just thought this one lent itself really well to the technique that we're doing. We'll just kind of turn this one this way. So we're just kind of going for kind of an old photograph or something, kind of a look, or an old...
Karen asked who makes the milk chocolate ink pad.
This is My Favorite Things. It's their premium dye ink. And then I'm going to go ahead and dry this. And then the real fun will start. All right, so now I'm going to take my Brutus Monroe Embossing Ink, the clear ink. And actually, before I do that, just because I've got kind of a mess of ink right here, I'm going to take my Microfiber Cloth and some of my Squeaky Clean and kind of clean up after myself a little bit so it doesn't rub off. Oh, and I did forget a step. One thing that's kind of fun about the Oxide inks, if you haven't used them, I thought it would be kind of fun just to kind of spray. If you spray it with water, it does react to water. So I want to spray it from very far away because I want a very fine mist. And then just watch how the ink kind of, you can kind of see how it adds a little texture. See if I can just get it to dry. Let's just use our heat tool. It's the quickest way to get some results. And you can do that as much or as little as you want. But you do, if you want that fine mist, that's what's going to give you all the little dots. If you get too close, it'll just do one big dot. It'll pool, and I don't want that look. So I'm going to do it one more time. And I kind of like doing it anyway because it kind of just softens your ink blend a little bit. I think we about have that. I don't think the camera will pick it up because it is kind of a subtle difference, but I will try to get it to see that. Okay, so now we're going to take our clear embossing ink.
You're off camera, Shannon, so when you do that.
I'm off camera where?
When you're holding stuff up, look at the tablet so you know exactly where you're at.
Okay. I was holding it right under the camera. That's weird. Must be too far one way.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm taking my embossing ink, my clear embossing ink, and I'm just going to go over this entire panel. And I love Brutus Monroe embossing ink. This stuff, you can tell where it is. It really goes on nicely. It's nice and juicy. And it doesn't dry up really quick. You can just put it on there and you don't have to run to get everything. It stays nice and sticky and ready to grab that embossing powder. So now I'm just going to take my little tray. You can use whatever you need. A paper plate works, whatever. I just happen to have this thing handy. And I am just going to pour my thick embossing dip over the top. Now if you're using something little, it is great to just dip it right in your jar. But we've got something bigger, right? Wouldn't do the whole thing. If we tried to dip it, we'd have to do it one side and then the other for sure. Okay, so you can see we've got a really nice thick layer on there. And we are going to go ahead and get that heated up. Of course, you want to make sure you get everywhere. So if you do what I just did, you're going to want to reapply. There we go. Okay, so now, one thing I like is when you are embossing, you can use the glass mat to your advantage because it does get kind of warm. So it kind of heats from the bottom too. And here comes the magic. And because it's kind of a heavier embossing powder, your paper doesn't, or your cardstock doesn't just blow away right away. So the middle is always a little bit trickier to get, but we will get it. We just have to be patient. I don't want to hold it in one spot too long because I don't want to burn my cardstock, but sometimes you have to zero in a little bit. All right, so I'm going to hold this up. Be careful that you pick a spot that's pretty much dry. And again, I told you the mat gets hot. I just felt it. Sometimes it helps to go right from the bottom. And once you cool down one of your corners, I'm just blowing on mine to cool it down a little bit. One thing I like to do to save my fingers from getting burned is I have just got these little clothespins just for this kind of occasion. Just because I need to get that little spot. Oh, see, I didn't go in very deep because I don't want to make an indentation.
Jen says burnt equals rustic.
That's true. Burnt does equal rustic. You get that nice, that really gives it a vintage feel, huh? Kind of gives it a history too. There we go. There, our middle is coming. Okay. So, I actually want to get a good layer of this on because we want to have plenty to crack. So I'm just going to repeat. Oh, put my finger right. I'm going to put my finger right in the embossing powder that's still wet because that would be a more typical live if I mess up like that. But see what I just did? I just went ahead and heated it back up and it took it right out. All right, so now my mat is still pretty hot. So I'm going to move over to this side and hope you can still see because it's hot right there. It's not hot right here because I want to go ahead and ink it up again. And I'm too impatient to wait for that to cool down. So we're just going to put one more layer of this on there. And we'll take our little tray. And I only did 2 layers, but honestly, you could probably go crazy with this stuff. I wonder if it would crack easier the more layers you put on it. You just don't want to lose your image by the time you get to too many layers on there. You might, your image will lose its, what's the word I'm looking for? You just won't see it as much, right? You still want your image to be a focal point. Let's start in the middle. Let's see if that helps. Yeah, I started in the middle this time and it kind of smoothed things out better, I think. All right, I have one little spot I need to smooth out. Yep, there it goes. I think we about have that covered. So now, this is the best part. This is the most fun. So now I just want to be careful not to pick it up before it's dry. I'm going to use my little spatula to get underneath it. And I'm actually going to put this right in my freezer. You heard me right. I'm putting it in the freezer. And while that's in the freezer, we'll take care of our card panel. And again, I think I'll just kind of clean up my mat a little bit because I know I've got embossing ink everywhere. probably a good idea to kind of make sure your mat isn't super warm still. Mine wasn't too bad. So now it streaks a little too if it's warm. We'll just pour our powder back in because I know it stresses people out if I've got open things, messy things ready to spill, and for good reason, because I am really good at spilling. Really good. I would say almost professional. Okay, so now that I've gotten powder everywhere. Okay, if you don't have one of these, mine is really ratty right now, so don't judge me too harshly, but this thing in my craft room, I reach for it all the time. This is the Microfiber Cloth, and it works like a dream, especially with the Squeaky Clean. This one is candy corn. I don't know if it's available anymore, but there were a couple of scents that were just recently released. One of them is cherry chocolate, right, Darren?
Yep. And
Candy hearts. And there's a ton of them. I'm telling you, I love Brutus Monroe Squeaky Clean. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that milk chocolate ink we were using earlier, and we are going to kind of just stamp a pattern. But first, I got a little ahead of myself, sorry. First, we kind of want to pink this up too. We want to do the same thing we did with the oxide inks. So we're going to start again with our tea dye. And I just like the kind of vintagey look it gives it. I just don't have the patience. Sorry, I have to just get it on there a little bit faster than it wants to come off of that brush. The brush is great for moving that ink around, but to actually get it started, I'm just gonna go for it. I definitely need to get the re-inkers though. Okay, so now we'll just move that around. See, so much better. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? All right, so we are going to keep at that for a minute. Am I missing anything? Because I know I'm doing a lot of talking. Am I missing some?
I think everybody's waiting to see what happens with stuff in the freezer.
Waiting to see what the freezer stuff's going to do. All right, so we got our first layer of ink down. And you know, honestly, this is still a little bit warm, so I'm just kind of letting that dry it. I don't know that I need to stop and use the heat tool yet. Let's go ahead and put on our vintage photo. I was a little heavy-handed there, but that's all right. Our photos don't age necessarily evenly anyway, right? Maybe just a little bit more right there. Oops. Okay. All right, and then we'll use our black soot. And right now I'm just using whatever's in the brush. I'm not adding on the black soot because, like I told you before, it's really, you can get heavy-handed really quick. However, I do think I want a little bit more than what I've got, so apparently I am going to reapply a little bit.
Karen asked, are you using the same blending brush for all the inks?
No, I've got 3 different ones. I used the big one for the bigger surface area, and then worked my way down from there. All right, so now we can go ahead and spray that. Actually, let's dry it and spray it. I don't know exactly how the ink reacts differently when it's wet or dry, but let's try it this way just because it makes me feel better. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and spritz just a little bit, and like I said before, we want to do it from really far away, or you want to make sure you have a super fine mist on your spray bottle. And I really wish I could show you better. This actually has a couple of bigger drops. Maybe they'll show up on the camera better. But it does just kind of soften things up. And you can see the little splotches? I don't know. Call them what you want to call them. Let's see if you can see those. This one's a little more prominent than some of the others. I do think I want to do it one more time. Ooh. Dropping my lid. Oops, I grabbed the wrong thing. I just used a little Squeaky Clean on there because I use a old Squeaky Clean bottle for my water. Okay. There we go. This is a little bit more dramatic. You can kind of get a better sense. Still kind of subtle, but I think maybe you'll be able to see it better with the camera now. Did that help a little bit? You can see it really well right there. Okay, so now we're going to use our outlines. And we're going to use that, oh, let's wipe this off again. Sorry, I feel like I'm continuously wiping this thing, but that's what's so great about this mat. Okay, so now let's open up our milk chocolate ink, and then I actually want to have, let me see if I've got a piece of scratch paper nearby. Thought I grabbed one. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so we'll just use this to kind of, I want to do, I don't know if I'll need it or not. I kind of want to do more than one generation of stamp on there, if that makes sense. So I want to make sure everything's inked up, and we'll do one going this way. I'm not as heavy-handed on it this time around, and then maybe even catch just the end of that one. Let's see. I want to go different directions. And some of this is going to be covered up anyway, so I'm not taking it super seriously. Okay, so now we're going to use our other butterfly shape. Go a little heavier on this one. I think I'm just going to, see how my stamp, I used half of it, I'm just going to line that up with the edge of my paper so that I don't have to waste that ink. And then we'll just kind of, let's see. Yeah, let's do it this way. Okay, you get the idea. So now, let's see what's going on with our little freezer project. All right, this is the best part. So I'm going to try to get up nice and close so you can see what happens.
Watch your tablet so you know where you're at.
Do you see that? See how it's just kind of cracking everywhere? And you can go crazy with the cracks, or you can be more subtle with the cracks. And if you are not, like, if you start having a hard time getting it to crack, you can stick it back in the freezer. You can add another layer if you think that it needs, if you think it needs it before you start cracking it, of course. But can you see all of that? Look at all those cool cracks.
It's
so
fun. Ooh, fun.
Isn't that fun? I love it. So now I kind of want to emphasize those cracks. So I'm going to just take a little bit of my ink. And honestly, I don't think I've found the best way to do this yet. I think there's probably a way I haven't figured out yet. But I just kind of took a paintbrush and tried to get in there in those crevices. But I wanted to be kind of careful because you have to be careful that you're not using an ink that's going to stain the...
Anita says awesome.
You don't want the ink to stain the embossing powder. You want to be able to wipe it right off. So it's just, you're basically trying to color the ink, or I mean the cardstock underneath where the crack is. And it doesn't, you can go as subtle as you want or not. Watercolor might work good with this. But again, you just want to make sure that whatever you're using doesn't stain your embossing powder on the top. So this, I notice, wipes right off. Maybe we'll get a couple down here. I thought the oxide ink kind of left more of a film, and I was a little more worried about it. So this one seems to wipe off easier. And I think we've got some good emphasis on our cracks there. I don't think they need to be completely dark. But we're just going to go ahead and finish putting our card together. So I just... this little panel is the same size as an ATC. You can actually use ATCs. I did on that first card I showed you. This one is an ATC, and I used paint and all kinds of stuff on this. It took a lot. That's one nice thing about the ATCs, is they will hold a lot of media. So I just layered that puppy on there and went crazy. This one is just the lunch bag paper, which is great too, and it cracks a little easier. It's easier to get it to crack sometimes. But this is the same size. It's 2.5 by 3.5. And then this is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. I just need to wipe my hands off because I just think I'm going to get stuff where I don't want it if I'm not careful. So I'm just going to hurry and wipe off my fingers because I got all that ink on there. Okay, so let's go ahead and just use some tissue tape on this. And honestly, the rest of this is going to be just kind of off the cuff because I don't have it completely laid out, but I have an idea of what I want to do. So just bear with me. Okay, so I do know I did want to use some of this ribbon. This is, oh, and this is your basic 4 by 5 1/4 panel. So we're going to just tape some of this on there. Just, okay. What did I do with my, oh, it's right in front of my face. Okay, so we're going to just add some of this here. And I obviously cut my ribbon way longer than I needed to. I am using tissue tape. And let me just cut my ribbon down a little bit. Let's see how straight I got that. Straight enough. Except I did it on the wrong side. Well, I guess it doesn't matter what side. That works. Okay, so next, now that I've got that on there, we'll go ahead and put our panel on our card base. I need to not tear such long strips. Okay. See if I can get that centered on there, or at least close enough. Okay. So now I want to put this up a little bit because we're going to slide some stuff underneath it. I do have, like I said, I do have kind of a plan. I actually think we'll be better off. Well, no, once those are down, those are down. Let's see if I've got any wiggle room on that. That one definitely went down hard. Okay, we're leaving them. It's official. Okay, so now this will stand up a little bit, which will be helpful. And these, if I haven't mentioned it before, these are adhesive dots that have tabs.
Easy tab.
Easy tab pulled up foam dots. Look at that. Love how simple that is. And I am going to put one of these in the middle, not because I need it for the adhesive, but just to kind of, so that it doesn't sink in the middle. We don't want it to kind of bow. Let's put this, let's put it about right there. And now I have these flowers. I don't think they're available anymore. I looked and didn't see them on the site. But there are plenty of other beautiful flowers on the Brutus Monroe website.
Says hello, sorry she's late.
Hi, Theresa. Thanks for joining us. I've texted you a couple times. You'll have to go back and see what I wrote because I've been trying to check in on you. Okay, so I had this flower that was big and I loved it, but I didn't want to use the whole thing. So I went ahead and I just got fancy with the scissors and cut it in half. So we are just going to try to tuck that in behind our photograph a little bit. And I think I'll just stick a little bit of foam.
It says no saggy middles.
Yes, nobody wants saggy middles. Okay, so now that is pretty well placed. And then I think I better do the next part next. The next part before I do. I'm jumping ahead is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so let's go ahead. I have these. They've already are in a circle, but I think I'm going to just peel them off. I've had this in my stash forever. So I think we're just going to mess with it. Do what we want with it. Maybe we will. Maybe we can use part of it, the circle. Let's see what happens if we kind of... Can we tuck that in there? Let's see what we think of that. Let me move that little guy over. Seriously, I bet you I've had this in my stash for like 10 years. It was one of those things that I held on to. I hoarded it forever because I wanted to use it for just the right layout. Yeah, and here it is 10 years later. So silly. Do you guys ever do that? I think I've learned to let go a little better. Let's see. Maybe I'll add this last one up here. It's time to get this thing used, right? Maybe not. How do they layer? Do they layer very well? We're about to find out. Not sure if I love that yet. I think I'm just going to cut it.
Nina says cleaning craft space and finding all kinds of stuff.
Oh, cleaning your craft space will definitely do that for you.
Gracie Ellis says hello from Norway.
Hi! Welcome from Norway. Okay, I think we just about have this. I'm feeling like, do we need a little bow or something over here? Do we need to... I feel like I don't want to ignore this other... Oh, I kind of like that better over there. I think we have enough going on over here. Let's see what we think of this. Maybe one over here to kind of tie it together. I have to check one more thing to see if I've got it, or if this may be too much, so we'll see. It's a little short. Let's try a little bit longer piece. If we're gonna do it, maybe we need about A bow might be too much and a knot might not be enough. Let's look and see what we think. Thanks for just letting me experiment while we're just right here live playing. Not liking the bow. It's not working too well. So let's just try the knot. I'm not sure we need it. What do you guys think? Do you think yes knot or no to the knot?
A little bit off camera, sweetheart.
I think I'm back. I didn't put a sentiment on. If we put the sentiment on, we don't need the bow.
Anita says, I do bows separately, then add on.
Ah, that's
Kay
smart,
says
Anita.
yes.
Yes with the bow?
I think you said about the knot. So.
Or the knot, okay. Let's see if we can do both. Or if that's just going to be too much. I think we can get away with it. What do you guys think?
What's that?
The only thing I'm worried about is it's kind of hanging out in the middle there. Maybe we'll try something else. Hang on. That's the great thing about this, is we can
Anita
do...
says yes, bow.
Okay, we'll leave the bow.
Jen says looks good either way.
I think we'll just add a little sentiment somewhere else on the card.
Susan says no bow.
I think you're outvoted, Susan, but I get where you're coming from. I think we'll leave the bow and add a sentiment here.
Kay said smaller sentiment.
Yep, I agree with
The
you.
bow is too big.
You think the bow is too big?
No, the hello was
Oh,
too big.
the hugs was too big? Yeah.
The hugs was
I
too
think
big.
you were right on that.
This is perfect. With the smaller sentiment. She liked that one.
Thanks, Kay. I'm with you on that. I'm feeling it. So we're just going to, let's just do something cute with the end here. Or at least cut it so it's even on both sides. Where are my little scissors? There they are.
Now what are those sentiments from?
So this sentiment is from, it was from the inspiration box from January. It was the ice cream box. They might be separate, Darren. You can look and see. But I can't remember. They're sentiment cards. They are awesome. Brutus Monroe has started putting sentiment cards in the inspiration boxes, and I love them. They're very convenient.
Are they this conversation clippings?
Maybe. What is it? What do they say? Are they black and white?
Yes.
Yeah. Conversation clippings.
Conversation clippings.
That's what these are. I think I want that higher. I could fuss forever, so I will try really hard not to so that I don't bore you to tears, but I do want it where I want it. And then we need to just attach this little guy. And I think we'll just use one of these tab.
What's it say? It's upside down.
Says, "You make me smile." What do you guys think? I love that it just looks old-fashioned. And then we just kind of brightened it up a little bit with that pink. And you can fuss with your flowers. Most of the time you're going to want to fuss with them a little bit because by the time you get them out of the packaging and stuff, they've been in the packaging for a long time. So they usually need a little fluffing. And you'd be amazed what just kind of...
Seal says, very cute. Anita says, love it.
Ah, thank you. And so easy. We made the whole card. We got it all done. Thanks for helping me place everything at the end.
Kay says, you did it. Very nice.
Thank you. I just have to get that dang sentiment straight and I'll be happy. I'll mess with that later. All right, let me just switch my camera around.
It's very nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a lot of fun. That cracked glass, that's so much fun. Try it out. Try it with different colors, because I've used, in both of mine, I used kind of subtle, more subdued colors, but I bet it would be really fun to use with bright colors. I know I want to play with that some more and kind of see what kind of things you can do with it. And I hope that you will experiment in your craft laboratories too. And go ahead and tag me. Anything that you make, post it in the Brutus Monroe fan page on Facebook and tag me so that I can see it. Thank you so much. I will see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.